District of Conservation is sponsored by the Committee for a Constructive Tomorrow, better known as CFACT. To learn more about our sponsor, head over to cfact.org. Thanks for listening to the program.
Getting ready to step into your career era? Set yourself apart with Adobe Creative Cloud Pro for students. Hone your skills with apps like Photoshop, Illustrator, Premiere Pro, and more, powered with the latest in creative AI. Students save over 55% so you can build a portfolio you're proud of. Launch your future with Adobe Creative Cloud Pro for students. Visit adobe.com/students to learn more.
Welcome to District of Conservation. I am your host, Gabriella Hoffman. This podcast offers a sober examination into all things hunting, fishing, shooting sports, energy, environment, and the public policy surrounding it. And this podcast also specializes in original interviews that you won't hear elsewhere. Here's what I have for you today. Listeners are in for a treat this week. I'm thrilled to be joined by Dan Cabela of the Cabela Family Foundation and host of Hard Truths of Conservation, a wildly popular and successful show on a multitude of different channels, Discovery and I think Animal Planet. Dan, it's been wonderful following you on social media. We have a lot of mutual friends, and I'm really glad that you can come on the podcast and share what you're working on. Those on the outside might be familiar with your last name and your background, but for those who are unfamiliar, kind of explain how you got roped into conservation.
Well, my folks, Dick and Mary Cabela, they started Cabela's in 1961. So you could say I was kind of born into it. Over time, obviously, when I first started, I was as a youngster, I was much more into to just the hunting because I was learning about conservation. But as as the years have passed, I've understood the importance of hunting to conservation and sustainable use. So it's really become kind of a mission for me to try and explain the relevance of hunting in a modern world and what that actually means to conservation and what kind of support hunters give to conservation.
And that has led you to do a lot in hunting and the like. I mean, anyone who has watched your TV program sees you travel not only domestically here in the United States, but to Tajikistan, all these exotic locations to see what other countries are doing as well. And how impactful is that to see not just the American model at work, but also what our counterparts abroad are using too? Because everyone has a different style of conservation, but I feel like they try to emulate the US.
Yeah, I think it's really impactful. And it really is fulfilling to me personally to see how committed people are, all across the globe, as you say. I mean, we pretty much film anywhere we can get to, and there are different methods used. In more marginal lands, it's a little different model, but very effective conservation. Nearly almost everywhere we go, of course, I say that, but there's also hunting involved in most of the places we go. And I'm obviously pretty biased towards that. So typically those hunting areas have pretty strong conservation models intact, to benefit not just the wildlife, but the people.
Speak more to what the Cabela Family Foundation does, because that is very integral to your series, but also to the work that you do. But what specifically does the foundation do, especially with respect to hunting and conservation?
Well, we do different initiatives. When, we sold Cabela's back in 2017, and at that time, the foundation was active, but more in a support role. So we were mostly supportive to other organizations. Well, after we sold the company, we started to put higher energy and more focus onto the foundation, and we made a decision to be active in our work instead of supportive. So we're still supportive, but now we're active in the support. So, we do a lot of wildlife conservation in the U.S. and Africa and other places. And that's really become the focus of the foundation, through the Hard Truths program. In recent years, we did the big 24 lions translocation, another translocation called 12 cheetahs. We've done quite a bit of sheep conservation. So although we're still supportive, I think now we've decided that we want other people to understand the relevance of people that are either employed through hunting or hunters themselves, what that means to wildlife conservation. So we're working with a lot of state officials, biologists, veterinarians, landowners, communities, volunteers. I mean, those are really the people doing the work, and we're trying to highlight that. The show, it's not really about the Cabela Family Foundation or Dan Cabela. It's really about the people doing the heavy lifting for conservation, and that's what we're trying to promote. I think that from an educational point of view, we're trying to show people this is how this happens, this is how this is paid for. Before you make a decision on whether you like hunting or not, consider what would happen if it went away.
A lot of people don't consider the trade-offs, especially here in North America, because they see these very charismatic animals. And yes, some horrible things happen to them, like poaching and obscene behavior, but that's a rarity when you think of the big scheme of things. But a lot of people, I would say that kind of 80% that is not firmly decided on hunting thinks that, okay, if we got rid of it, potentially, maybe things will be better. Wolves will be better off, or grizzlies will be better off, or deer would be better off. But when they don't weigh the trade-offs, it kind of could lead to more disaster. And I think that's where your show comes in and showcases that it's not just these really bloodthirsty hunters going just for the kill. Like, you show a lot of reverence for the animals, even that you harvest. You're not always showing the kill shot. I think a lot of hunting shows, they go directly to just the kill shot, and that turns off a lot of people, understandably so. But you're not really even showing the kill shot. You're taking a kill shot, but you're not showing like the exit entry. You're paying respect to the animal that you had taken. And it's more beyond just like the sport of it, the thrill of the hunt. It's all encompassing thing. And I encourage people to watch the program to see that. But are there any other initiatives that the Cabela Family Foundation has undertaken with the translocations and anything else? Because I know your team was very eager for us to discuss a couple initiatives as well. But you do a lot of translocation. You, like you said, you work with a lot of the stakeholders here in North America and the countries that you visit. But is there anything else that the Cabela Family Foundation is working on that you want my listeners to be aware of too?
Yeah. So recently, I don't know how far I want to. This might take some time, but it's been a very busy summer. So let me just bring up a couple of things. We were in Mozambique in June, and we translocated some hyenas to the Zambezi Delta, as well as a couple of new males that we got from Gorongosa National Park. And the reason why we brought in those two new lion males was to further diversify the genetics of our lion group there. And so it was kind of a big deal. Took a lot of family there. We actually announced that the 24 Lions project now has over 100 lions there. So that is a pretty major stepping stone for the foundation, probably the biggest project we've ever done, and one that's really meaningful to us. So that's one thing that we have been doing this summer. And then after that, fairly quickly after that, actually, we went up to Kodiak and with IOTR, International Order of T. Roosevelt, and we sponsored some collars for collaring brown bear, which is pretty exciting. I've done some apex predators, catching them and collaring them, but I've never done brown bear, and that's a pretty massive, iconic North American animal. And that was a really, really cool experience. And the reason for collaring those brown bears is just to better understand behavior and interactions with prey species, and also mother-calf interactions. So there's some video callers, there's some standard just satellite type callers. But we did it with Alaska Game and Fish, and it's just so they can better understand, what is the resource use of these bears at different times of years? What is their behavior? They've found some of these bears are swimming between islands. I don't think they would have ever known that without the collar. So yeah, it's great. I mean, honestly, I've hunted brown bear, which is really cool. I've done it a few times, but I would say collaring brown bears is even cooler.
I had a little taste of what you do. I got to do a bear den study earlier this year, actually a couple days before my birthday, and just to see these adorable little black bear cubs and to hold them as the biologists are testing the health of the mother and giving health checks on even the cubs and tagging them to ensure that they could be monitored and tracked. Just to see that firsthand was so cool. So I got a little experience of what you do on a regular basis, but it really does speak to the fact that hunters are so integral to this. They work with wildlife agencies and folks like me, even on the media side, but I'm a hunter as well and a conservationist, but I got to see that firsthand and see where those dollars go to. And it is really true. Like that's the only type of chance, like collaring or bear den studies are really the only opportunity people can get if you're lucky to see like bears up close in a safe setting and all in the name of science. Dan, is there any particular location you have filmed at so far that has been the most impactful to you? I know you were talking about the collaring recently, but is there anything that you haven't touched upon, like a particular episode that you've done in a location that people wouldn't suspect would be very impactful to you? But is there any location you've gone to that has really left this great impression for you?
Yeah, there's a few. If I was going to try to narrow it down, I would probably say we have filmed up in Nunavut quite a bit the last 2 years. Actually, we're just there last week. And that has been really eye-opening to me, that the Inuits have been able to survive up there for thousands of years in that harsh climate. And we've done quite a bit of hunting with them. Actually, they were doing most of the hunting. And I think that I've walked away from there just thinking about, how tough those people are. I'm pretty sure without their assistance, I wouldn't last very long up there. So, it's had a profound effect on me hunting with those folks and just seeing the conditions that they seem to thrive in that I think most of us would just, crater.
It is tough. And I would say even what I've heard from Alaska natives and friends who hunt or cavort with them, that is just a very different thing hunting with Native Americans or different Inuit tribes. So I could imagine it is very impactful because they survive and endure harsh conditions. You look at any documentary. I watched that episode or some, I think, episodes of yours where you've gone to those communities, and it is really tough. Like I think us in the lower 48, we're very privileged in terms of like the hunting conditions we're typically bestowed with. But the fact that for them it's millennia long type traditions and they keep at it, especially in these very tough Arctic conditions, it's very noble and very kind of inspirational to see them do that. And then also wanting to share with folks like you. Dan, you've been around in conservation for a long time. And while I think we are on the upswing in terms of winning people over to hunting and by extension conservation, what do you think are the looming threats to both hunting as a sport and then the wider conservation dynamic? Because we often hear that, okay, one terrible mistake can really derail efforts. But I think even when horrible poaching incidences or egregious acts occur today, like we can step in as conservationists and say, this is a terrible example, you condemn it. But sometimes the media campaigns can last forever and really tarnish the image. But even outside of that, I think even on media, we're winning people over. But in your mind, what can be the biggest threat? Like a bad social media post? Is there some other prevailing threat that we're not paying attention to that could impact our ability to hunt and therefore be conservationists? Like what in your mind is a problem that we have to be aware of?
Well, I do think, and I honestly think it's gotten better. It seems that a lot of people are taking concerted effort to clean up the social media. I don't know if you feel that way, but I definitely see that. Compared to 5 years ago, there's been a significant change on social media because people started to realize even if it wasn't intended to have a negative impact, some things were having negative impact. So, and I do think that is definitely problematic. I mean, things get on social media, they can be misinterpreted and used in bad ways. So I do think that's one issue. Another issue I would say is just, cultural changes and different attitudes, towards outdoorsmen, outdoors women. Things are changing. We're losing young people. We need to work hard to get young people to hunt. Part of that is access. I think also part of it is it's not the cheapest thing in the world to do. And the problem with that is if you start to lose generations, it goes away pretty quickly. So we have to be careful to keep this outdoor lifestyle going and to promote that to younger people and to make it accessible for younger people. There's lots of people, lots of great organizations doing this work, but it's still a pretty steep mountain, so I think that's an issue. And then if you look at, more areas like Africa, more marginal situations, I mean, obviously, it's a little different there than what we have going on here. You've got poaching, which you've mentioned, which is a very big deal, and then also, communities have to be educated into the reasons why we need to protect the wildlife, and they need to benefit from that. And there is a lot of that going on. There's been major changes, and I think that is having a major impact in some of these more marginal type areas. Getting communities to, instead of poach the animals, to invest in them because they are getting benefit out of it, whether that's schools being built, medical clinics, or just protein. All those things have major impact there. So there's different challenges in different places, but and they are significant. But I think we all just have to keep pushing forward and try to spread the message that, in difficult places to get to, there's not really a better land use for protecting wildlife in this day and age with 8 billion people than hunting or some sort of recreation. I mean, that's what keeps those vast spaces intact. So we have to hold on to that.
That's very evident here in the United States. And I think recently a lot of people got their ears perked up about, potential loss of access. And so it is still very important, especially in a place like the US, because we have such a unique landscape where we have both private and public lands, and most countries around the world don't have the same luxuries that we do. You can enjoy different types of terrain, have different types of opportunity, and people feel it because of the billions that are generated annually from both hunting, fishing, and the like. And if you lose that funding, and as you said, don't perpetuate it with younger generations. I'm a millennial. I am an onset hunter, but I started fishing and shooting sports and eventually made my way towards hunting. I always had it in me, but a lot of my peers don't have that, even close to Washington, D.C. So it is a challenge. You're absolutely correct. Dan, if my listeners want to connect with you, the Cabela Family Foundation, watch the program, how would you like them to partake and spread the word?
Okay, so Hard Truths is on currently airing on Animal Planet. It's on Discovery and Animal Planet. It's finished up on Discovery for this season, is now airing on Animal Planet, and that's on Sunday mornings at 8 a.m. Eastern. It runs back to back for an hour. But then you can also, learn more about the foundation at the CabelaFamilyFoundation.org website. And there's also a hardtruthsofconservation.com website. And then through social, it's Instagram and Facebook. It's Cabela Family Foundation. There's a Dan Cabela page on both those platforms. And then there's a Hard Truths page on Facebook. So that's probably the best way to get in touch with us and to learn more about what we're doing.
No, and you and the foundation and all the folks you work with do tremendous work to educate people. I can't recommend the program enough. I've enjoyed watching it. I don't have Animal Planet, so I have to figure out a way to watch it maybe through the website.
But Dan, it's been a pleasure to talk to you. I hope we can connect in person sometime soon. Really a big fan of your work. And I hope my listeners and viewers get to take a look at what you're doing and see kind of the legacy that your family has built to really be instrumental in promoting and preserving true conservation efforts.
Thank you so much for having me. I've enjoyed our conversation.
If you enjoyed this installment of District of Conservation, I would love to know your feedback. Send it my way. Please be sure to leave us reviews on Apple, Spotify, or wherever podcasts are played. And also check us out on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter to never miss a beat nor a guest announcement. Thanks so much for listening to District of Conservation. I hope you have a wonderful day. And please share the podcast to those who may be interested in learning more about these critical natural resources, environment, energy issues.